Delloreese, born Delloreese Patricia Early, July 6, 1931, November 19, 2017, was an American jazz and gospel singer, actress, and ordained minister. She is best known for starring in the long-running television series Touched by an Angel. Reese's long career began as a singer, scoring a hit with her 1959 single Don't You Know? In the late 1960s, she hosted her own talk show, Della, which ran for 197 episodes. She also starred in films beginning in 1975, including playing opposite Redd Foxx in Harlem Nights, 1989, Martin Lawrence in Eighth in Line Between Love and Hate, 1996, and Elliott Gould in Expecting Mary, 2010. She achieved continuing success in the television religious supernatural drama Touched by an Angel, 1994 to 2003, in which Reese played the leading role of Tess. Delloreese was born Delloreese Patricia Early on July 6, 1931, in the historic Black Bottom neighborhood of Detroit, Michigan, to Richard Thaddeus Early, an African-American steelworker, and Nellie Mitchell, a Native American cook of the Cherokee tribe. Her mother had had several children before Reese's birth, none of whom lived with her, hence, Reese grew up as an only child. At 6 years old, Reese began singing in church. From this experience, she became an avid gospel singer. On weekends in the 1940s, she and her mother would go to the movies independently to watch the likes of Joan Crawford, Bette Davis, and Lena Horne portray glamorous lives on screen. Afterwards, Reese would act out the scenes from the films. In 1944, she began her career directing the Young People's Choir, after she had nurtured acting plus her obvious musical talent. She was often chosen, on radio, as a regular singer. At the age of 13, she was hired to sing with Mahalia Jackson's gospel group. Delloreese entered Detroit's popular Cass Technical High School, where she attended the same year as Edna Ray Gillooly, later known as Ellen Burstyn. She also continued with her touring with Jackson. With higher grades, she was the first in her family to graduate from high school in 1947, at only 15. Afterwards, she formed her own gospel group, the Meditation Singers. However, due in part to the death of her mother and her father's serious illness, Reese had to interrupt her schooling at Wayne State University to help support her family. Faithful to the memory of her mother, Delloreese moved out of her father's house when she disapproved of him taking up with a new girlfriend. She then took on odd jobs, such as truck driver, dental receptionist, and elevator operator, after 1949. Performing in clubs, Early soon decided to shorten her name from Delloreese Early to Delloreese. Reese was discovered by the gospel singer Mahalia Jackson, and her big break came when she won a contest, which gave her a week to sing at Detroit's well-known Flame Show bar. Reese remained there for 8 weeks. Although her roots were in gospel music, she now was being exposed to and influenced by such jazz artists as Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, and Billie Holiday. In 1953, she signed a recording contract with Jubilee Records, for which she recorded 6 albums. Later that year, she also joined the Hawkins Orchestra. Her first recordings for Jubilee were songs such as In the Still of the Night, originally published in 1937, I've Got My Love to Keep Me Warm and Time After Time, 1947. The songs were later included on the album And That Reminds Me, 1959. In 1957, Reese released a single called And That Reminds Me. After years of performing, she gained chart success with this song. It became a top 20 pop hit and a million-seller record. That year, Reese was voted by Billboard, Cashbox and various other magazines, as the most promising singer. In 1959, Reese moved to RCA Records and released her first RCA single, called Don't You Know? Which was adapted from Giacomo Puccini's music for La Bohème, specifically, the aria Quando Men Vo, Musetta's Waltz. It became her biggest hit to date, reaching the number 2 spot on the pop charts and topping the R&B charts, then called the Hot R&B Sides, that year. It sold over 1 million copies, and was awarded a gold disc by the RIAA. Eventually, the song came to be widely considered the signature song of her early career. She then released a successful follow-up single called Not 1 Minute More, number 16. She remained on the Billboard Hot 100 chart with a now, number 69. In 1960 she released Someday, You'll Want Me to Want You, number 56, which was drawn from her Grammy-nominated album Della. The album rose in the pop album charts to number 35. In November 1960, Reese appeared in advertisements in Ebony magazine for the newly launched AMI Continental Jukebox. Reese recorded regularly throughout the 1960s, releasing singles and several albums. Two of the most significant were the classic Della, 1962, and Waltz With Me, Della, 1963, which broadened her fan base internationally. She recorded several jazz-focused albums, including Delloreese Live, 1966, On Strings of Blue, 1967, and One of a Kind, 1978. She also performed in Las Vegas for 9 years and toured across the country. Reese continued to record albums in the following decades, receiving 2 more Grammy nominations in the gospel category for the album Delloreese and Brilliance, 1991, and for the live recorded album, My Soul Feels Better Right Now, 1999. Motown singer Martha Reeves cites Reese as a major influence and says she named her group the Vandellas after Van Dyke Street in Detroit and Delloreese. In 1969, she began a transition into acting work which would eventually lead to her highest profile. Her first attempt at television stardom was a talk show series, Della, which was cancelled after 197 episodes, June 9, 1969, March 13, 1970. In 1970, Reese became the first black woman to guest host The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. She appeared in several TV movies and miniseries, was a regular on Chico and the Man and played the mother of B.A. Breckus in the A-Team episode Lease with an Option to Die. In 1991, she starred opposite her old friend Redd Foxx in his final sitcom, The Royal Family, but his death halted production of the series for several months. Reese also did voiceover for the late 1980s Hanna-Barbera animated series A Pup Named Scooby-Doo on ABC. In 1989, she starred alongside Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor and Redd Foxx in the film Harlem Nights, in which she performed a fight scene with Eddie Murphy. Reese appeared as a panelist on several episodes of the popular television game show Match Game. Reese has had a wide variety of guest starring roles, beginning with an episode of The Mod Squad. This led to other roles in such series as The Bold Ones, The New Doctors, Getting Together, Police Woman, Bettocelli, Joe Forrester, Police Story, The Rookies, McCloud, Sanford and Son with old friend Redd Foxx, Vegas, Insight and 2 episodes of The Love Boat. She also had a recurring role on It Takes Two opposite Richard Crenna and Patty Duke, 3 episodes of Crazy Like a Fox, 4 episodes of Charlie and Company opposite Flip Wilson, 227 with best friend Marley Gibbs, MacGyver, Night Court, Dream On, Designing Women, Picket Fences, Disney Channel's That's So Raven and The Young and the Restless. After coping with the death of one of her best friends, Redd Foxx, in 1991, she was reluctant to play an older female lead in the inspirational television drama Touched by an Angel, but went ahead and auditioned for the role of Tess. She wanted to have a one-shot agreement between CBS and producer Martha Williamson, but ordered more episodes. Reese was widely seen as a key component of the show's success. Already starring on Touched by an Angel was the lesser-known Irish actress Roma Downey, who played the role of caseworker Tess's angel, employee, Monica. In numerous interviews, there was a on- and off-screen chemistry between both Reese and Downey. The character of Tess was the angelic supervisor who sent the other angels out on missions to help people redeem their lives and show them God's love, while at the same time, she was sassy and had a no-nonsense attitude. The show often featured a climactic monologue delivered by the angel Monica in which she reveals herself as an angel to a human with the words, "I am an angel sent by God to tell you that he loves you." The character of Tess was portrayed by Reese as down-to-earth, experienced and direct. Reese also sang the show's theme song, Walk With You, and was featured prominently on the soundtrack album produced in conjunction with the show. During its first season in 1994, many critics were skeptical about the show, it being the second overtly religious primetime fantasy series, after Highway to Heaven. The show had a rocky start, low ratings and was cancelled 11 episodes into the first season. However, with the help of a massive letter-writing campaign, the show was resuscitated the following season and became a huge ratings winner for the next 7 seasons. At the beginning of the 4th season in 1997, Reese threatened to leave the show because she was making less than her co-stars. CBS ended up raising her salary. Touched by an Angel was cancelled in 2003, but it continued rerunning heavily in syndication and on Ion Television, formerly Pax TV, the Hallmark Channel, Up, and later MeTV. Reese's mother, Nellie Mitchell Early, died in 1949 of an intracerebral hemorrhage. Reese's father, Richard Early, died 10 years later. Reese had an adoptive daughter whom she acquired from a family member unable to care for her, named Delloreese Daniels Owens, in 1961. Owens died on March 14, 2002. It was never released whether she died from suicide or from complications stemming from pituitary disease. Reese said about the painful experience, sharing her frustration with the lack of awareness and knowledge of pituitary disorders. "When it happened, I thought, it's such an odd thing to die from, because pituitary problems aren't something you hear about. It makes it harder because you don't understand what happened. It seemed so strange and hard to explain. It still is, to be honest." In 1952, Reese married factory worker Vermont Adolphus Spontaliafro, 19 years her senior, 10, and adopted the stage name Pat Firo for a week, before introducing the stage name she used for the rest of her life. Those sources differ as to whether this was after the failure of the marriage, or simply a show business decision. A second marriage ceremony, on December 28, 1959, to accountant Leroy Basil Gray, who had 2 children by a previous marriage, was kept secret for some time. This marriage either ended in divorce or was annulled on the basis that Gray's previous divorce was invalid. Reese appears to have been briefly married to Mercer Ellington, who was then her manager, in 1961, before this was annulled due to Ellington's Mexican divorce being ruled invalid. In 1979, after taping a guest spot for The Tonight Show, she suffered a near-fatal brain aneurysm, but made a full recovery after 2 surgeries by neurosurgeon Charles Drake at University Hospital in London, Ontario. Citation needed. In 1983, she married Franklin Thomas Lett Jr., a concert producer and writer. Citation needed. In 2005, Reese was honored by Oprah Winfrey at her Legends Ball ceremony, along with 25 other black women. Citation needed. In the 1980s, Reese was ordained as a minister through the Christian New Thought branch known as Unity, after serving as the senior minister and founder of her own church, Understanding Principles for Better Living. The UP Church is under Universal Foundation for Better Living, a denomination of Christian New Thought founded by Reverend John E. Coleman, a close friend of Reverend Reese Lett. In 2014, the IRS Criminal Division began investigating the disappearance of nearly $2 million from church banking investments, as well as questionable use, misappropriation of church funds and not paying church employees their earned wages. As of 2009, they meet at First Lutheran Church in Inglewood, California. In her ministerial work, she was known as the Reverend Dr. Delloreese Lett. On July 6, 2011, Reese celebrated her 80th birthday at the Catalina Jazz Club in Los Angeles. In 2015, a Golden Palm Star on the Palm Springs Walk of Stars was dedicated to her. In 2016, shortly after her 85th birthday, Reese was said to be in poor health, and had undergone multiple surgeries. She further disclosed that she had neglected her health for years, which had contributed to her developing diabetes. After her last appearance on Signed, Sealed, Delivered, she had retired from acting. While Reese sometimes used a wheelchair, she avoided using one often, because it would make her condition worse. On November 19, 2017, Reese died at her home in California.